Ahuru, everyone. Welcome to this event hosted by the African People's Solidarity Committee titled Contaminated by Colonialism. Today we'll be discussing some recent reporting on how colonialism poisons, pollutes, and destroys the earth. And we will talk about the way forward and how we in the white community can be part of the positive future that the African People's Socialist Party is building. My name is Brendan McCoy. I am a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee, or APSC, the organization hosting today's event. The African People's Socialist Party formed APSC in 1976 with the mandate that we organize other white people to build the movement of reparations and genuine solidarity with the liberation of African people. That is our assignment, and we work under the direct leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. I want to go ahead and salute our leadership, Chairman Omale Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onisene Yeshitela. And I also want to salute my leadership in the Solidarity Committee, APSC Chairwoman Penny Hess. Before we get started, if you are tuning in on YouTube, please hit that like button to help us get this important information out, and subscribe to get alerts whenever we go live or post a new video. If you are tuning in on Facebook, please share this live stream with friends and let us know in the comments where you are tuning in from. We will have a Q&A later in the program, so take notes and enter your questions in the Q&A feature in Zoom or in the comments on YouTube or Facebook. I want to let everyone know this event is a fundraiser for the Ahuru Solidarity Center, which is the national headquarters of the Solidarity Movement. It's a beautiful organizing center located on the south side of St. Louis, where we are right now filming this with a banner outside that reads Unity Through Reparations. The building is owned by the party's Black Star Industries, and tonight we have a goal to raise at least $500, so please go to apscahuru.org/donate to make a contribution. So today we are incredibly excited for our featured presenter, APSC Chairwoman Penny Hess. She was the first person to hear the call from Chairman O'Malley to organize for reparations in the white community. She was present when the African People's Socialist Party held the founding conference of the Solidarity Committee in the fall of 1976, and she has been a leading cadre member of the African People's Solidarity Committee ever since. Under the leadership of the party, she researched and wrote the book Overturning the Culture of Violence that I encourage everyone to read, study, take notes, keep it as a reference. It is absolutely critical if you want to be involved in this kind of work, just to have that material ready. And she is a member of the Uhuru 3 that just beat the feds in a 2-year-long campaign against bogus charges that attempted to lock Chairman O'Malley up for 15 years. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, Chairwoman Penny.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Let me put on, okay, Uhuru, everybody. And it's really, really powerful to be here. I really want to thank you, Comrade Brendan, and everybody who's, I shouldn't unmute, right? No,
you're good.
Okay. So, that the world is contaminated by colonialism. Colonialism poisons, pollutes, and destroys the earth, and the African Revolution is the solution. And it really just, in the starting, it couldn't be more perfect, because today and this week, there's been a global climate summit in New York City on the climate issue, and the US boycotted it. So that sort of tells the story. And the headlines in the New York Times said, at Global Climate Summit this week, US isolation was on full display. On Wednesday in New York, countries lined up to say they would accelerate their efforts to cut greenhouse gas emissions. In staying away, the US was all but alone. Virtually the entire world said that they would unite with cutting greenhouse gas emissions, except for the US. So that is very, very typical of what happens. So let me start my PowerPoint, and let's look at some of this. There's so much that we can say. And I want to start with slide number 2, Chairman O'Malley should tell, because we are looking at this reality through the eyes of the African working class under the leadership of Chairman O'Malley Shatella, that who formed and created the political theory of practice called African internationalism, that lets us see the world as it truly is and not as we wish it to be. It sees the world through the eyes of the African working class. And we're going to be talking about that a little more. Next slides, we salute Chairman O'Malley Shatella. We salute Deputy Chair Onizine Shatella, Uhuru. Lisa, I'm on number 3. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'm on number 3, Lisa. Anyway, because I don't see your face there. Okay. Uhuru, and who Deputy Chair is the architect of the Black Power Blueprint that is creating political and economic power in the hands of the African working class here in St. Louis, and leading the party, the African People's Socialist Party, which is very powerful on the continent of Africa, on the continent of Europe, in the Caribbean, and throughout this country and throughout the world, struggling for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere. Next slide. So today in New York City, there was somebody somebody did this. I don't know how they did it. This was in the New York Times today. They put, this is like a whole bronze statue, and they just like put it up somehow on the mall in front of the White House, or and it is Epstein and Trump. And it was taken down. They had to bring big bulldozers or whatever it is, forklifts and stuff to move that today. So I just wanted to say that. And next slide. So yes, there was a climate change conference at the United Nations this week. The US boycotted it, and I just read a little bit from that. Next slide. I also want to, this is a salute to Chairman Omali Yeshitela, but one of the things Chairman Omali Yeshitela told me about this incredible writer, Octavia Butler, an African writer in the 1990s. And she wrote, among other things, the book called The Parable of the Sower. And it is, I really urge everybody to read it. It's an amazing book. I'm actually just rereading it. I read it back then, but it is about the resilience of African people in the face of the political, economic, and climate catastrophe apocalypse. Takes place in Los Angeles, and they have to walk up the deserted highway, coastal highway, to someplace like Oregon or Washington State, anyway, and where they create this community led by African workers. It's really a powerful book. So just on that, I recommend that people read that. Next slide. So we're talking about climate change, the crisis of imperialism, and that the understanding that what is called an ecosystem is the interdependence of all living things, of nature, society, the economic system, and that all the ecosystems that exist on this planet that are favorable to life are deeply endangered for all species. Next slide. And that the environmental crisis as we know it is caused by the colonial mode of production. And colonialism is when a whole people is dominated by a foreign alien state power for profit for the colonizers. And this is a picture of the British colonizer who had a goal to colonize the entire continent of Africa for Britain, Cecil Rhodes, in the early 20th century. Next slide. Climate change is a result of a system built on the enslavement of African people and the genocide of indigenous people. And it's a system that is built through parasitic capitalism and what the chairman has termed the colonial mode of production. The understanding that colonialism is not something from the past, and it is not it's not a policy, it is the essence and the DNA of the system that we live in. And when we say genocide, the word genocide under international law is to the human race what homicide is to an individual. It is the murder of the group. Next slide. The motto of colonialism is kill everything that moves. And that, and there was a book about that by Nick Terse, Kill Everything That Moves, about the US policy in Vietnam and the massacres that that the US carried out there. And this is true, that in Vietnam and Gaza, we see this, and the system of colonialism, the US domination, the US imperialism will do anything to destroy the entire people, the entire environmental surroundings of the people in order to win and to gain the resources and the land that is stolen through colonialism, through the colonial and violent domination of other peoples. Next slide. So again, the chairman, and this is something that we have to really understand, that colonialism is the mode of production, that there is no other way that goods and services or wealth is created in this society. Colonialism is the essence of the system. We're going to go through and show that, and we can show how the whole question of the environment is completely tied to that. Again, colonialism is not a thing of the past. It is the DNA of the social system that we live in. Next slide. And yeah, so kill everything that moves, kill everything that breathes. This is a picture of British soldiers who have surrounded the Kikuyu people of Kenya when they were fighting for their national liberation against British colonialism. And they were forced into barbed wire fencing and forced to live outside. And, you know, just all of the ways that the British and US colonialism have exterminated the people, also in Southern Africa, where the Herero and the Nama people were forced by Germany into the middle of the desert without food or shelter or water, and died a horrible death by the thousands. And this was before Germans or Europeans killed other white people in Europe in the 1930s and 40s. This is what Hitler based his program on. Next slide. And one of the things that we're seeing is that Trump is saying that he's going to make this history illegal. He's closing down the Smithsonian Institute, which has a little bit of the history of the enslavement of African people. So we have to build. This is not a this is not an academic question. This is real. This is really critical that we fight for anti-colonial free speech, that we win this in the white community. This is what we have done. This is what the African People's Solidarity Committee was called on to do with our book, Overcoming the Culture of Violence. And from the very beginning, to talk to other white people, to explain the history and the complicity of white people in the foundation of the society and the continuation of it through genocide, through the colonial domination of African people, indigenous people, and the oppressed peoples on the planet Earth. So yeah, so he's trying to make this illegal. We're saying it's really too late because we have a Uhuru Solidarity movement in 130 cities around the world. And that is very powerful, but we need to mobilize all of the members and everybody who wants to become a member of the only organization under the leadership of the African Revolutionary Movement with the mandate to raise reparations to African people. We need you. If you are part of USM, if you want to be a member, then help us build and organize in your city, on your campus, raising reparations. And we're going to be talking about more. I think Jesse's going to talk about later the Reparations Legacy Project and all of the incredible work that we are going to be taking on here in St. Louis, but around the US. Next slide. So this is actually one of the photos. This is of this that's at the Smithsonian that Trump is going to saying they're taking down. And like the chairman said, I mean, this is a hideous photo of, all we know is this man's name is Peter or Gordon. We don't know, you know, it's not recorded more, but that you know, it just shows the absolute terror and violence of colonialism and what it meant. And it is really important, the chairman always says, that we remember and keep alive what it is, the atrocities that white people have carried out, are responsible for, and also that we can take a principled stand under the leadership of the African Revolutionary Movement. Next slide. So colonized people, African people and oppressed people around the world bear the brunt of climate change. And they call this the Anthropocene age, which means that it is human dominated. What is happening to the earth is caused by human beings, not by other factors that might have been there in past eras or of earthquakes or volcanoes, etc. This is caused by the activities of human beings here, and that all around the world, the conditions of African people in terms of the of global warming, of the floods, the all of the different things that come about with climate change are very, very, the impact is much larger on the continent of Africa and other places where indigenous and African people live. Next slide. And the Chairman Omala always puts out that climate change began when white people first stepped foot on Africa and made an African person do something against their will. And that the chairman always talks about how that sharks changed their their natural routes that they had in the ocean because they were following the slave ships where African people were thrown overboard. And this is a painting. This is sort of I guess, a little bit of an abstract kind of painting by Turner, who was a painter in the 19th century in Britain. But it's called, the slave ship Zong. That was a real ship where, because of the insurance, in other words, the African cargo, African human beings were insured by Lloyd's of London, but they would not be insured if they died a natural death. They would only be insured if, for some reason, they had to be thrown overboard. So they needed the money, and they ran out of water, they said, on board ships. So they threw something like 80 or 90 or more African people overboard. And, they said that the sharks were, they were just a frenzy of blood in the water, basically. Just a vicious thing, and so typical. You can look that up, the slave ship Zong, Z-O-N-G. And so we see slide 17, the kidnapping of African people changed the ecosystem of the Atlantic, and schools of sharks, as the chairman said, followed the slave ships wherever they went, and they knew that they could eat well because the African cargo was often thrown overboard because if the slave ship owners had insured their cargo, then they actually made more money than they would in selling the human beings by getting the insurance. Next slide. And again, the chairman said the sharks changed their migration routes to follow the slave ships to the Americas. Next slide. So these are photos of Renty Taylor and his daughter, Delia Taylor. And these were owned by Harvard University, these photos, and they were forced by the family, the descendants of the Taylors, in a lawsuit that took years to carry out, but it was litigated, I guess, this year. And the family won, and they forced, Harvard owned these. Let me just say, Harvard owned these pictures, and the families of Renty and Delia said, you cannot have those pictures. And the reason that they own them, that Harvard owned them, is that they had been used by Harvard University to prove that African people were inferior to white people. So these pictures, these photographs were released by Harvard University, and they were turned over to an African history museum in South Carolina. Next slide. So as we understand from the leadership of Chairman Omali Shatella, plunder, genocide, this brings massive resources and wealth to the white world. This is what the wealth and prosperity that we as white people live on comes from. There's no benign capitalism. Capitalism is violent. Capitalism is in its very essence parasitic. It only exists at the expense of African and indigenous peoples. So it cannot be perfected. It was born that way. This is the thing that the chairman tells us. And that's why what the African People's Socialist Party is fighting for is a new world, a world without colonialism, without the oppressors and the oppressed, a world in which African people will be free, Africa will be liberated, and all of the false borders of Africa would be overturned. And once African people are free, the world will be free. The world will be free. African people have always been the progressive front lines of all struggle that we see in this country and in this world. Next slide. So environmental destruction and forced starvation have always been a tool of colonial conquest. And it really is opportunist for white people to separate the environment from colonialism. Because colonialism is the destruction of the people's ability to control their own environment and their own resources. Next slide. So parasitic capitalism makes a commodity out of air, land, water, and human beings. A commodity is an item for sale. It is, in a world where access to land, water, and air is or should be a human right, and certainly the right to self-determination, to be able to control themselves. Next slide. Here in St. Louis in May, there was a tornado, and the tornado hit a wealthy white neighborhood, Clayton, where it was fine. And everybody had insurance, but then it leapt over from the wealthy neighborhood to the north side of St. Louis, right where the Uhuru House is, and all the programs of the Black Power Blueprint. And it did incredible devastation there. And 70% of, let's say North St. Louis, by the way, is about 97% African. And 70% of North St. Louis did not have insurance for their homes. So it was a serious crisis, and the city of St. Louis, the government has so far done nothing to to help remedy the situation. I mean, this house that we're seeing here is many of them were just a pile of bricks, literally. A pile of bricks would be all that was left of it. So the impact of the tornado, it is not, as the chairman said, it wasn't an environmental problem. It was a colonial problem. It was the reality that African people and the African working class has nothing that this city has had policies called the Team 4 plan, for example, that consciously stated that they would starve the North Side, the predominantly African community, of all resources in order to promote white businesses. And we would, I'd like to be able in the future to give a whole PowerPoint just on the history of St. Louis, which is really powerful because it is a city where the the government, the city government, the local government has done everything possible to crush the community, but the resilience and fight and brilliance of the African working class over and over again has built incredible institutions of African community power. And the work of Chairman Omali Shatella and Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella in building the Black Power blueprint and the work in North St. Louis right now is a continuation of that history. So we will be talking more about that in the future. Next slide. The St. Louis tornado hit North St. Louis. It's not the environment, it's colonialism. And these are African people who were murdered basically by the city because the sirens did not go off. I just to say that there are tornado practice times all the time. You do hear these sirens, and on the day of the actual tornado, the sirens did not work. And somebody has to go to jail. This is the position of the movement of the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement. Somebody has to pay a price, but so far the city is not paying a price whatsoever. But this is 7 African people in North St. Louis and in the county that were killed. Because the siren went off. And I mean, it was did not go off, and because it was a horrible situation. Some of these people were realizing that suddenly, a tornado, which was a mile wide, was hitting them. And so they were running down the stairs to their basements at the last minute. Or I think one person was in a church and the steeple fell on the people. I mean, it was hideous, and it was totally unnecessary to have happened that way. It could have been fine, but the city is responsible and does need to pay a price. Next slide. Also, to say about St. Louis, just in terms of the environment, St. Louis, there's so much, and we could have again a whole PowerPoint just on St. Louis in terms of the environmental crisis that's here. St. Louis is where the atomic bomb was made, was produced in the before the end of the Second Imperialist War, where that bomb was used against the people of Japan. And so the city never disposed of the radioactive waste in the correct way. So today, I'm talking about today, it is still in open pits of radioactive waste that is on fire, and they cannot put the fire out. It won't go out. There's nothing they can do to do that. And the runoff of that radioactive waste goes into a creek called the Coldwater Creek, where children play, and the cancer rate is much higher. They're up there by the airport where this is. This is also the city of the NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency is here, this huge campus, quote unquote, that is opening up soon, that is responsible for satellite imaging that enables the US government or the military to use drones that can go up in the air 4 miles in the air and be able to see, as they always say, somebody holding a stick of butter on the ground. So they could see that stick of butter. And that, this is where this imaging, when we saw what the US-backed Israeli government is doing to Hamas and how it can target, and as it did, Yahya Sinwar, one of the leaders of Hamas, they targeted him with imaging and were able to, focus and bomb and kill him. in that way. That is from this NGA here in St. Louis. There's also here in St. Louis, the Israeli, appropriately named Israeli Chemical Company, Corporation, whatever, that produces white phosphorus, a deadly chemical agent that is used in chemical warfare. So this is, this is a hideous place in terms of its role in the death and destruction of colonized people around the world. Next slide. I'm just going to go to a few things here. These are some facts that were in a recent article that was in the New York Times by David Wallace Wells. Maybe somebody can put that article. Lisa is maybe going to put that in the chat. It has a lot of information in it, and one of the things that he talks about are plastics, and this is probably, nobody here probably remembers this, but I do remember the film The Graduate that came out in 1967, where Dustin Hoffman is a young white man, and this older white man goes, "You've got to invest in plastics." And it's so funny because I remember that. That's what I remember about it. But this whole thing, plastics, and everybody was like, plastics, wow. So, but this is, this is a reality today. Every single thing is made with that. So this was in the New York Times. This is slide 28. Plastics now permeate our bodies and every aspect of life. Plastic is now threaded through the flesh of fish, where it is interfering with reproduction, and stalks of plants, where it is interfering with photosynthesis. And in most of what we eat, plastic is in your saliva, in your blood, in human hearts, kidneys, and other organs, in the breast milk, and on both sides of placentas. Because plastic has been found in ovarian follicular fluid and in the majority of sample human sperm, it is embedded in not just the yet to be born, but also in the yet to be conceived. So it is everywhere. It is in us, around us. Next thing that is brought out, next slide, 29, what they call PFAS, which are the forever chemicals. And this is another thing that's, that's in the article by Wells. It says PFAS, forever chemicals, or everywhere chemicals, are found in sea foam, sewage sludge, used as fertilizer, in our eggs, in our seafood, in our food wrappers and nonstick pans, in fields of artificial turf, in groundwater serving up to 95 million Americans, and in almost half of sampled tap water. In 2 decades, PFAS have grown 6 times as prevalent in the American surface waters. The next slide, this is a chart here that shows the forever chemicals in fast food packaging, pollutants, nonstick cookware, water-resistant fabrics, cosmetics, cleaning products, stain-resistant products, personal care, your water-resistant clothing, etc. Next slide, just a picture of some of where these chemicals are. Your eggs, your blah, 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 all your food. And next slide, number 32, dead zones in the oceans are filled with 8,000 tons of antibiotics are flushed into the world's rivers annually. And other medicines and things such as antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, cocaine, methamphetamine, heart medicine, and pain killers. That's what's in the water. That is largely in the water. Next slide. Also, we know that California had wildfires, very serious wildfires this year. And wildfire smoke is more toxic than ever. And as articles have said, in the fires that were in Southern California that the ruins themselves are so toxic that they have to detoxify. The people can't just start rebuilding, because all of everything from the society is there in all of those ruins. So I don't know, I haven't seen an update, but this is a picture, one of the pictures of one of the neighborhoods. And one of them was an African middle-class neighborhood that, was pretty historic in being an African middle-class neighborhood. All right, next slide. So more than 90% of the world breathes unhealthy air. Next slide. The medical consequences of breathing unhealthy air: respiratory disease, cardiac conditions, developmental disorders, various cancers, dementia, Alzheimer's, and premature birth and low birth weight. Next slide. The last decade includes the hottest temperatures globally of any time in history. Never in history were the temperatures as high globally as in this last year. And that's pretty much true every year. Every year it goes up. So this is any time in history when humans were alive. And humans prosper in temperatures of approximately 77 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. But yet, every summer, I mean, even here, the temperatures are going up to 95, 100, 107, 110 degrees. And it's never been that hot in the history. All right, let me get this to the right place here. And, in Los Angeles, so just in terms of the current situation, Los Angeles, the ICE raids, and I know that there was a shooting of an ICE detention facility in Dallas today. I mean, just the whole volatility of the world situation that we live in today, the crisis of imperialism, the crisis of colonialism is deepening just by the news that we see. But in Los Angeles, the ICE raids of Mexican indigenous people on their own stolen land, and the current administration is saying they're raising the visa fee for the indigenous people from $250 to $100,000 to get a visa in this country, which, as we know, is going to be so many corporations, white-owned corporations, use Mexican labor that I'm sure the administration is going to face a lot of contention on that grounds alone. But currently, they are being pushed out. They are being, in fact, they're using, I should have had a slide on this, they're using the Angola prison, the work farm, basically from the era of convict leasing, but it's still one of the most hideous prisons. It's a prison farm in the United States, in Louisiana, to force a lot of the Mexican workers into Angola prison. So this is part of the resistance that we see the party's close organizational ally, the Unión de Barrio in Los Angeles. And under the current administration, hundreds of residents have been deported, and many of them had a green card. Here is a picture of some of the comrades from Unión de Barrio in LA and Los Angeles. So the party, as always, salutes Unión de Barrio. Next slide. Unión de Barrio and Community Self-Defense Coalition in Los Angeles that they had built. Amazing, really, really powerful. And I would really urge you, if you haven't seen it, to go to Unión de Barrio's website. They have a lot, and on Facebook as well, a lot of great information about these struggles. Next slide. So in Africa this year, 2025, it's the worst drought in 100 years. The Horn of Africa and Southern Africa are particularly affected, with some regions experiencing the worst drought in decades. These droughts are often linked to climate change and natural climate patterns like El Nino, which is intensifying around the world now. And it significantly affects agricultural yields, water resources, and food security. Next slide. One of the things that severe long-term drought creates is absolute hardened dirt, as you can see here, that cracks and turns hard, so that even if it rains, if you do get a rain, if you get a downpour, it just rolls off and goes right into, you know, the river or the ocean. It's not able, the land is so dry and compacted that it cannot absorb the moisture. So it just becomes worse and worse, as you see, a true desert. Next slide. US imposed famine and starvation. As we know in Gaza, we know in Africa, the global report on food crises indicated 295.3 million people across 53 countries faced acute food insecurity in 2024. And it's projected to even be worse this year. Next slide. Nuclear power. In 1986, Chernobyl, and in 2011, Fukushima in Japan, there were meltdowns of nuclear power, but because of the, you know, the gas and just the pollution created by gas and other fossil fuels, nuclear power is now seen to be the clean power, but in fact, of course, it isn't. We see massive species die off, and this is just a fish kill, which is very, very common, certainly in Florida. It's in the news all the time. All of these dead fish washing up into, you know, onto the shore. Next slide. We see mass deforestation, and, you know, to say that under colonialism, part of what the colonizers did was to deforest. The French deforested Haiti on purpose so that African people couldn't hide. And today, if you see Haiti, the hills are still brown, but it was once it was called the Pearl of the Antilles, and it was, you know, a beautiful lush island. But it, you know, colonialism created that situation. Next slide. And certainly US colonial wars of plunder, military occupation, destroying peoples and the environment. Next slide. In occupied Palestine, which you could, you know, if you're following it at all, you know, it's horrendous every single day. And in occupied Palestine, it is estimated that 300,000 Palestinian people have been murdered since 1948. But the US-backed Israeli assault on Palestine has murdered at least 136,000 people just in, you know, in the past few years. And next slide, the US destroyed the infrastructure of water, sanitation, sewage, and their sewage contamination, and massive land degradation in Gaza. And because the US-backed Israeli state and army bombed and destroyed the health ministry of Gaza, we no longer know. Nobody is keeping count of how many people are even murdered and killed every single day there. So we don't have an up-to-date count. I think we've been saying since October 7th of 2024, it's been 60,000, they keep saying, or at most, and they've been saying that for a long time, and we know it's a lot more. But we know, next slide, the resistance in occupied Palestine, as the chairman said, that the moving force in the world of the struggles against colonialism by colonized peoples, that, you know, again, as the chairman has always said and explained, white people, all white people, sit on a pedestal of the oppression of African people and colonized people. here and around the world, and that it is this struggle against colonialism that has brought all progressive change and movement in this country and in the world. Next slide. The resistance of African and oppressed people worldwide for justice, liberation, national liberation, and end to imperialism. That's what leads the struggle. Next slide. African indigenous people inside the US are fighting for self-determination and control of the resources. Next slide. For thousands of years, African and indigenous peoples were custodians of the earth. There was no pollution. There was no ozone level. There was no, plastic. There was nothing when African people and indigenous people had power over their lives. That is a European white, US imposed colonial result of this violent domination of African oppressed peoples. Next slide. Historically, the people and the environment were one under, prior to the colonial invasion, the assault on Africa. Next slide. The Aztecs had terrace gardens and crops grown on lakes. It was an incredible place that is now, I think it was called Tenochtitlan, that is now pretty much where Mexico City is. Next slide. And again, all this changed with the European invasion of the rest of the world. Next slide. Europe, as the chairman always tells us, was isolated, poor, plague-ridden. It was under feudalism. People had no rights. There was disease. There was superstition. There was the imposition of genocide by the Catholic Church on against the peoples, indigenous people and African people. Next slide. African and indigenous people waged fierce resistance to European invasion. Next slide. White environmentalism does not base this on the reality of the European colonial conquest. They try to, in other words, what I'm saying is that the white environmental movement separates itself from the reality of colonialism and the struggle for national liberation. Next slide. African people became Europe's most lucrative commodity. African people would start up money for this capitalist system. Next slide. And the theft of indigenous land, the genocide of the indigenous people by regular white people. Next slide. So the environmental destruction, even the buffalo herds that were wiped out, that roamed, millions of buffalo roamed in the Western states, all gone, except for a few that are in a zoo now. And it was key to the indigenous people, to their lives, their culture, and just everything, to what they ate, to how they dressed, etc. Next slide. 90% of West Africa's rainforests are now destroyed by colonialism. Next slide. African elephants are now nearly extinct, and 90% of all species that have ever lived on this earth are extinct. 90%. Next slide. Millions of Africans historically, if we want to look at history in terms of this, millions of Africans were killed in the colonial ivory trade, killing elephants massively, that really put them in a state of extinction, to have ivory for piano keys and other things that they used ivory for white people in Europe. Next slide. And it is this reality, this plunder, this destruction of human society for the benefit of white people that gave us the opportunity for prosperity, to own property, to have jobs. Millions of Europeans who came here saying that, to the US, saying that the streets were paved in gold. Next slide. And white people massively participated in terror against African people to preserve our status on the pedestal on the backs of African indigenous people. White people fought for this, carried out the genocide, carried out the attacks. Next slide. Opportunity for us at the expense of African and indigenous people. And the picture on the right is, all we know is his name was either Peter or Gordon, the man who, this is a famous picture. This is at the Smithsonian, and you know, anyway, that this is one of the things that the current administration wants to get rid of. So the state protects corporations and its plunder and pollution. Next slide. US chemical warfare, napalm, white phosphorus, Agent Orange was used in Vietnam and elsewhere on this planet. And this is a famous picture of napalm and Agent Orange, which burns the skin from inside, was used on children in Vietnam. Next slide. The US wages colonial wars inside the US with at least 2.5 million people imprisoned. Next slide. And then police terror waged against African communities. These are just, you know, this is Ayanna Jones and Tamir Rice from several years ago, but we know that since George Floyd was murdered by the police in 2020, there have been 1,000 police murders in this country. You know, they do everything they can to keep that quiet. Next slide. Prisons. Prisons are incredibly toxic to human beings and the environment. We want a society without prisons, and the people who should be in prison are the ruling class, those complicit with carrying out the colonial violence against African and oppressed peoples. Next slide. US is a consumer-driven parasitic society at the expense of the oppressed, and consumer spending is 75% of the US gross domestic product. So it's not based on creating or making things. It is based on spending your money, buying things. Next slide. US needs ongoing plunder of other people's human and natural resources for its prosperity. Next slide. America's lifestyle is an unsustainable price. The US is 5% of the world's population, but uses more than 50% of all resources in the world. The US has 300 million people, but we are equal to 3.3 billion because of all of the resources that we use. I mean, white people are, what is that? You know, millions of times more of an impact than each person. And the US, again, is 5% of the world's population. We use 50% of the world's resources. The US government and corporations steal oil, starve the people, destroy the land and the fishing. Next slide. Well, this is a few years ago. There were a lot of environmentalists protesting. They were going up in these trees, sitting in the trees, fighting to save the forests, the primary forests in northern California and other places. But they didn't say anything about the indigenous people whose land it was, that it was still stolen land. Next slide. The US guns down human beings and our name in US and abroad. Next slide. Saving the environment is only possible through self-determination of the oppressed, through national liberation. Next slide. The only solution for the planet is to overturn this parasitic system. The earth must be saved, but the people who created it and benefit from the problem cannot solve it. So it's not going to be our ruling class. It is going to be African and indigenous people who solve that. And we can stand on the forward side of history if we want to see a beautiful world with a thriving environment and relationship of the people, with nobody waging wars or oppressing others. Then we have to be under the leadership of the African Revolution, because white people are not going to make that happen. Next slide. We want to see justice and national liberation of all oppressed and colonized peoples. Next slide. It is their land, their struggle for national liberation. Next. With control of their land and resources, liberated African people will undo the deadly legacy of colonial destruction. And this is a picture of bringing Black power back to North St. Louis, the Black Power blueprint, and the Uhuru Bakery Cafe. Next slide. The African Socialist International is building, by the African People's Socialist Party, it is building all over the world and continent. I believe there are 26 organizations of the party in the continent of Africa right now, being organized, being built. Is very powerful. This is the winning side, and we want to be on it. Next slide. Africa's resources belong to African people. All of this, and we look at everything from music to lions to oil to the history of African people is stolen from them. It's stolen from them, and their resources need to go back. This is the essence of reparations. Next slide. We reject complicity in a system that destroys humanity and Earth for our benefit. Join the African People's Solidarity Committee. We must be organized under African leadership, under the African People's Socialist Party. Next slide. Join the African People's Solidarity Committee and Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Again, white people organized under African leadership. Next slide. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3, hands off Uhuru. Next slide. Our future is under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And I wanted to end here with a quote from Chief Stealth, or Chief Seattle, it was also called. And he said, "Indigenous peoples of the Americas and Africa revered all living things." So this is the quote from Chief Stealth. He said, "When the last red man shall have perished, and the memory of my tribe shall have become a myth among white men, these shores will swarm with the invisible dead of my tribe. And when your children's children think themselves alone in the field, the store, the shop, on the highway, or in the silence of the woods, they will not be alone. At night, when the streets of your cities and villages are silent, and you think them deserted, they will throng with the returning hosts that once filled and still love this beautiful land. The white man will never be alone." Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru, thank you so much, Chairwoman Penny. There was so much there, and
Oh, I think Elisa has something else she's going to show, by the way.
oh, do we have the video? Or the...
Yes, just of
Excellent.
yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the woman's name who is speaking. I don't. Lisa, could you come on and
Here it
say
comes.
that? Okay.
So Gwen Hudgens.
Okay, thank you. And this was somebody.
St.
This
Louis.
was filmed by, I think, Westbrook from Impedum.
Mm-hmm.
After the tornado. It's a very powerful statement.
Yes. Uhuru.
The day of the tornado?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we heard it. It came from the back. My son was in the back. I was in the front porch of the house on the computer. And he called me, and as he was calling me, running to the front, I stood up, and when I looked up at him, the back of the house was falling. And we made it to the front hall as far as we can go, and it blew us out through a wall onto this body.
Damn near 2 months later, the only response you got from the city is a dumpster.
It's a dumpster.
And
That's it.
pretty much that y'all had a bag for it.
Had to beg for it. The alderman didn't come by, speak to us. The mayor didn't come by, speak to nothing.
That's sad.
Yeah.
They tell us not to mobilize and don't go out there and it's dangerous. But can you tell the camera, is this the people or is this the city helping you?
This is the people, the community.
Be on the city about, hey, where's the money, for people to rebuild?
Right.
That's the biggest thing. There's
Yes.
no money. They've been talking about the 30 million for I don't know how long.
Right.
Nothing has come up with it yet. They say next this week.
Next week.
And it's always been that next week.
Yeah.
So, anything that you need, please don't hesitate to contact us.
I will not, and I appreciate y'all so much for the support. So
How many years was this in your family?
40.
40 years. So unfortunately, you can't hand this generational wealth down to your seed.
no,
One more thing, how many bedroom stories? Can you give us a little update about?
it was 2 bedrooms. Kitchen, bathroom, living room. And it was me, my son, and my husband. My husband passed away, and then it was just me and my son.
We want to get organized.
Right.
Because we see the city is not going to do right by
No.
particular black community
Right.
here in the north side. So
Right.
we have to do it for ourselves.
Okay. I appreciate y'all so much.
Okay.
So much.
To Ms. Hudgens and to Westbrook, and also the man with the glasses there was Christopher Gladney, the president of the Northside Independent Neighborhood Association, who has been at every single town hall, every single event where the mayor's at, where any of the older people are at, raising their voice and
The office of
leading.
deputy chair.
Yes,
Out there.
yeah,
Struggling for the resources to come, and it's been very powerful. And actually, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch has quoted
yeah,
Sayali, as we know,
Yeah,
and Christopher Gladney, several times for his statements that he's
Absolutely.
made and the struggles that he's made.
and the president of the Board of Aldermen also quoted Sally, right? Was it Megan Green, right?
Yeah.
The party is making sure that people are heard, and
Yes,
and you can
really
tell it's stressing out the city government.
Yes,
but
it
they,
is. And
They need to be doing their jobs.
the party has just done a phenomenal role in mobilizing, not only mobilizing the community, but courageously going up before the
Yeah.
city to demand that the city bring resources and do something
Right.
to help and aid African people. And I believe a couple of thousand people in the African community have actually left town because they lost
Yeah.
their old house.
Yep.
And they see the city is doing nothing, and now they're going someplace else.
Yeah.
And, that just everything that deputy chair, Onisa Shatella, chairman, Amala Shatella, and all the, Chris or Sayali, as we know,
Yeah.
and, just Westbrook and Petum and comrades in the office of deputy chair have been powerful.
Yeah, and
Really
they're giving the
forces
people
city.
somewhere to go and someone
Yeah.
to reach out to who, is gonna make sure something gets done.
And I would also say that there were some really great North Americans or white people who donated a
Yeah.
lot of materials to the Uhuru movement to give out to the community, which
Yeah.
they did. And that was really powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really exciting that happened.
Yeah, we were just vans full of stuff getting
Mhm.
dropped off the Uhuru house, and like you said, the office of deputy chair really kind of facilitating all that and getting those resources out to the community. Uhuru. Okay. Before we move on, I do want to shout out Leah and read Leah's comments here for anybody who's not watching this on who's maybe watching this on Facebook or YouTube. Leah said, "I find it incredibly frustrating that most prominent environmentalists push so-called green energy, solar, wind, etc., as the solution to the climate crisis without any recognition that the coltan, cobalt, lithium, and other rare earth minerals that power solar panels and green infrastructure are extracted by force in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and other areas of Africa and South America. There is no recognition that these minerals belong to Africans who are denied self-determination to decide whether or not to use these resources. Green energy is still colonial in nature. It is still extractive." So
Great,
Yeah.
great. Really so true and really, really helpful. Thank you so much for raising that.
yeah, and also saying the U.S. will sanction these African countries and refuse to take our waste. The beaches of Ghana are littered with literal tons of the fast fashion that we consume in this country. If we love the earth, colonialism must be overturned.
Yeah.
Colonialism must
Thank
go.
Yes.
So, yeah, excellent. So, and thank you so much, Chairwoman Penny, for that presentation. I do want to let everyone know we will be having a Q&A session shortly. So please submit your questions in the Zoom Q&A feature or in YouTube or Facebook chat, or put your comments in. But before that, I do want to take a few minutes to tell you how you can get involved in solidarity with African people's struggle for liberation and support this work. The most important thing that we can do to stand with all oppressed people is to join under the leadership of the African Revolution, and that is what APSC was created to do. So we have a goal. We have a goal today to raise at least $500 for the Uhuru Solidarity Center in St. Louis. So go to apscuhuru.org/donate. If we can get 10 people to give $50 each, we will meet our goal today. I do want to contribute. I do want to contribute $20, so I won't hit that $50 mark today, but I will contribute $20 towards our goal. And I do want to shout out those who have donated so far. We have Lisa with $100, Uhuru, shout out to Lisa. We have Janine, $25, Allison with $50, and Jesse, who I believe is here in the room with us, $50. So,
and I'm going to put in $50.
Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny. So we are over halfway there. So we have $295 contributed so far. So just $205 to go. We are right there. So the funds that we raise in these APSC events, they go to the expenses of the Uhuru Solidarity Center, this building that we're in right now, a building owned by the African People's Socialist Party that we in APSC are responsible to develop and promote as we build the movement for white people's reparations to the African community of St. Louis and beyond. It is the headquarters for the African People's Solidarity Committee in the US and around the world. So if you appreciate this webinar, if you appreciate, all of the other webinars and all the other informational resources and all the work that you can find on our YouTube page or Facebook page, please contribute today so that we can really develop this and really keep it going.
Yes, I really want to unite with you. And this is basically the center, the building. This building is owned by the party. Yes. And it is a beautiful, beautiful building here on the south side of St. Louis. And we have, and most of you know, you may have been here. We have beautiful, fabulous events here. We just had a summer intensive a few months ago with comrades coming from West Coast and other places. That was very, very exciting. Just a lot of activities here. This is where we build in the white community, which we're mandated to do. And, just donating to we need to raise this $500.
Right.
That's nothing. We're always raising a lot of resources. A lot of you give, some of you give to other things, but I'm just saying, this is the place to give. We need to raise at least $500 tonight.
Absolutely.
Towards our budget, our monthly budget.
Yeah, and a lot of really incredible work does get done here. And it's also just such a resource for the community and in other ways too. We've got this, you know, all these historic pictures behind us. We've got a little library. It just
The Chairman Omali Shatella, Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella have spoken here multiple times. We have launched and gone out to what we call the drops, like dropping flyers on doors all over
base starts
these
here.
These neighborhoods here. We have a lot of support just from the community. People do appreciate this. People have come in. We're going to be, you know, the party this year is going to be launching the Uhuru Pies, the holiday pie campaign, which they have done since the early 80s or late 70s. In other places, and it's going to be here. We're going to have tables out front. You can come and you can help bake, you know, at the kitchen for that. So there's so many exciting things that happen here. You're welcome to come see it and donate.
And have some successful pie sales
tonight. Yeah. We need to raise this.
Okay, so let's go to our slideshow here. So the African People's Solidarity Committee is unique in that it is a strategic front of the African liberation movement behind enemy lines. We are in the white community. We are led by the African People's Socialist Party, and APSC was founded in 1976. So the mass organization of APSC is the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, with members in 130 cities in the US and Canada. So APSC is a cadre organization, which means we adhere to African internationalism, the worldview of the African People's Socialist Party, which is a worldview to change the world, not just analyze it. It is a theory that demands practice. We are doing the work. The national headquarters of APSC in USM is at the Uhuru Solidarity Center at 2654 Gravois Avenue.
Yeah, beautiful Solidarity Center.
That's the front. So it's an important space from which we organize campaigns like the annual Days of Reparations campaign, as well as teach-ins, outreach, actions, and the reparations work APSC and USM carry out. This is from the march just 2 weekends ago here in St. Louis. Got it.
So great.
Feels like a couple days ago. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible.
It was. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
To be out there on the streets of St. Louis saying, I will no longer be complicit in genocide, and to see how much support there is. People honking when we're marching, and you know, it's really, really an important stand.
Absolutely.
And of course it's a fundraiser as well.
Yeah. Over $600 raised at that event. And I want to salute everyone who participated in that. And I also want to salute everyone who participated in the Reparations Summer Project this July, which was also hosted right here in St. Louis. And it raised over $17,000 in reparations to the Black Power Blueprint.
It was so great. Look at that beautiful garden.
Comrades from all over.
And, that beautiful mural on the building right next to the Uhuru House.
And I believe I don't think we have the picture here, but there was a double rainbow over that mural one
at the end of the summer. So very exciting.
Yeah. So okay, next slide. The main work of APSC and USM is reparations. So returning stolen resources to the programs of the party, building political and economic power to the African working class, including the Black Power Blueprint, as well as the Uhuru Houses, Uhuru Foods, Black Power 96.3 FM radio, and the Burning Spear newspaper, just to name a few. I know there's a sister station in St. Louis in the works as well. So, and this is really just scratching the surface.
That's really going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yes.
Uhuru. Following the May 16th tornado in St. Louis, the Uhuru movement did not miss a beat. The Uhuru House on West Florissant became a center for donated supplies to be distributed to the community. And the Uhuru movement has been organizing volunteer days to mobilize people to come out and help with cleanup and recovery, which members of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement participate in. So, next slide. So another critical front of all the work under the leadership of the party is the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign that is pushing back the state attacks on the African liberation movement and leading the struggle for anti-colonial free speech. So Uhuru, and that's just a few things. I know we don't have time to really go over everything. And I do want to shout out the folks that have been contributing while we were talking. Shout out to Kitty, $20. Shout out to Janet, $20, and shout out to Ruby, $30. Uhuru, thank you all so much.
Yeah.
So we've got 100. So we are at $365. We've got $135 left to raise. So we are right there. And you know, just to reiterate, the Solidarity Center, this center, it is a vital resource for people from the white community in St. Louis, and really, like you saw in the summer project, people from everywhere to come together to plan and organize events, as well as community outreach, fundraisers for reparations, and solidarity with the Black liberation movement. So we want to call on you to contribute to this work, the work of APSC, the work of the center. Go to apscuhuru.org/donate. You can make a one-time contribution, or you can even become a monthly sustainer. And I want to shout out Michael, Virginia, Leah, you know, and many others who give every month. So
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate you, comrades.
It's an incredible stand to make, certainly. And we already have, so like I was saying, we're at 365. We have 135 remaining to the goal. You know, thank you to everyone who has donated and pledged so far. Again, that is apscuhuru.org/donate. Let's keep going. Let's reach this goal. We'll keep announcing, you know, new contributions. We'll shout you out throughout the rest of the program. But I do want to talk about just another way that you can take action, that you can be a part of this work, and that is to join the African People's Solidarity Committee. So you can go to apscuhuru.org/join and fill out the form. You know, maybe making a contribution, you know, just doesn't feel like enough. If you want to get involved in the work, if you want to really, you know, see what this is all about, get your hands dirty, you know, join the African People's Solidarity Committee. This is the organization that's getting it done. But once you fill out that form, someone from our membership office will contact you within 24 hours. We will get you started on the new member process, which includes political education. You know, if you enjoyed the program tonight, there is so much more where that came from, as well as getting to work, contributing your skills and strengths to our mission of winning millions in reparations to the African liberation struggle and building a massive movement of white solidarity with Black power under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So, you know, now is the time to bring all the stolen resources from African people for hundreds of years back to the African Revolution. So join today. Go to apscuhuru.org/join. Uhuru. Okay. I do want to shout out, or let me check the donations before we move on. Okay, I do want to shout out where people are tuning in from. I know we've got so some folks tuning in from Oakland, from Louisville. We've got people here in St. Louis, and I know we've got people watching from Minneapolis. So, you know, all corners. So Uhuru, you know, to everybody who joined us today. Let's see, take a look at some of these questions here. Interesting. Okay, so someone on, this was the first one that was written down, someone on the USM mail list shared the following in response to the invite for the event. So they were ahead of the game. They got they got their question in early. No more data centers in St. Oh, it's a call to action. No more data centers in St. Louis. Sign the petition. Yeah, and I know I assume the data center they're talking about is the one being built off of Vandevender, which is like right under the highway, like one of the main highways going through St. Louis. So I don't know if we want to put that, I don't know if we want to put that in the change.org petition, no more data centers in St. Louis. If we can get that into the chat. And I want to shout out Leah again for her incredible comment. Then we had, Janine on YouTube, who from Oakland. Yeah, huru Janine, huru to everyone out on the West Coast. So also getting the work done out there. Huru to Ali. Ali says, huru watching from APSC St. Louis. And the O Virginia says that she remembers that film, The Graduate.
No.
So not the only one, Chairwoman Penny. So does Jesse. I'll have to watch it. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Ahuru Wendy from Oakland, California. I remember that film as well. So terribly ironic. Everybody remembers it. I was the only person involved in today that did not see that film, I guess. So no, that was me.
Oh.
No, what Wendy did see it.
Okay.
So but Ali did have a comment on the presentation. What a powerful and informative presentation, Chairwoman Penny. We have to push hard to support and raise reparations for the party to lead the anti-colonial liberation struggle to liberate the planet. So huru Ali, and all your incredible work as well, Ali.
Yes.
And Jennifer says, y'all are amazing. Keep up the great work. Little heart emoji. So shout out to Jennifer Ahuru. Thank you for joining.
Jennifer
Farber.
Oh.
So I'm unfamiliar. So welcome, Jennifer. Okay. Keep donating, keep supporting, contribute to this really incredible work. If you're watching this, and you're watching the recording, you can still donate. It is still time to do that. So Ahuru. Okay. Checking the comments, checking the donations, see if there's anyone we still need to shout out. I do, really want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. It's such an incredibly important topic that really kind of, writes a very often misunderstood problem. People thinking, like you were saying, and like Leo was saying, the solution for this is clear. It is, in the Black liberation movement, but is so often people come to the wrong conclusions because they're not coming to the problem from the right perspective, which is why we work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. So, okay. Before we move on, before we start, getting into our announcements and our closing, I did want to ask Chairwoman Penny Hess, do you have any parting words, anything you want to say to the viewers?
Well, I'm really glad that everybody was on tonight. I'm glad that, of the donations. Thank you for chairing this meeting, comrade. And I just think that, again, when we look at the news, look at the homepage of the New York Times and see, just headline after headline of what is happening. Detainee is killed and 2 others are wounded in Dallas. Yeah. ICE office shooting, and just all of the inquiry into ex-CIA chief John Brennan stalls purge, just all of the things that are unraveling for the state, for the colonial state, that the chairman has said that this is a very dangerous time for African people, but it's also a very good time. Yeah. Because when the state is weak, when it is facing collapse and serious contradiction is when African people can seize their time to take on their struggle, and people want to struggle. You know, we see
Yeah.
this this vicious state and what it's doing, and and also I think about the victory of the Uhuru 3 was a victory for anti-colonial free speech. One of the things that the chairman talked about is that the Uhuru 3 case was, as the chairman termed it, the canary in the coal mine. Some people that might not know what that means. That means that when miners went down in the mines that could become toxic with the fumes there, they would bring a canary with them, and so if the canary died, they were like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so that's we're seeing something of what the Uhuru 3 case represented, and we do see this incredible attack on free speech, on the First Amendment, and certainly on anti-colonial free speech. But yet, the chairman led a fierce, brilliant, and courageous struggle to fight back. He did not accept this, and he won the support of hundreds of organizations and thousands of individuals from around the world and across the political spectrum to join this forward side of history and stand with Hands Off Uhuru, that not only pushed back the state attack, but did it in a way that benefited everybody.
Yes.
And is saying that no, they're not going to take away the right of anti-colonial free speech, that African people and oppressed people will continue to fight for their national liberation and freedom and liberation for all people, all oppressed people. So it was an incredible victory, and something that we have to continue to fight for, because
Yes.
we are in the white community.
Yep.
We are out there and seeing everything from Charlie Kirk to everything that's there. But yet I think that the divisions in this country, there are people that are saying we're at the point of civil war, and it will be interesting to see what will be coming out. But the thing that is not talked about in the headlines, in the New York Times or anything else, is that it's not the divisions of white people versus white people. I mean, there's African people, indigenous people there. White people are a minority, as the chairman keeps saying, and will continue to be a minority, and that the real movers and shakers of history are African people, are the indigenous people, the people who the colonized who are making this incredible fight. And that's the side that we have to be on if we want to see a future.
Absolutely.
If we want to see a future.
Yeah.
And and this whole question of reparations, which I feel that is very, very timely now, that the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela had a goal in the very late 70s and early 80s. The chairman said he would make the word reparations a household word. And, from the APSC, from way back in the day when we were out there, doing street work or having demonstrations or going door to door or doing drops in the very early days, white people were like, what are reparations? They hadn't, they were like, I don't even know what that means or what it is. And the chairman defined it. He fought for it. He gave it a revolutionary meaning that this country and system was built at the expense of all the resources and labor of African people, and it must be returned. And that is that is the secret to defeating climate change, to having a world without war. We don't want war. I mean, the whole, one bomb could wipe out most of humanity. this is a hideous way to live, and we don't want to live that way.
Yeah.
We want, as the platform of the African People's Socialist Party said, that African people have a right to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, and to say who their friends are. And, under the leadership of the party, we can be with the people, not in a parasitic way, but in a principled way. And that's what's very, very exciting about this period. But certainly it is a period of struggle that we're looking at. And I want to be there. I want to be on the front lines of the work that we are supposed to do. And part of that, a real key part of that, is winning the resources and turning it back over. And we'll be talking more about that, of the work that we will be doing with the Reparations Legacy Project. And this very, very dynamic work. So if you want to be part of this, please sign up and
Do it.
put it in the chat that you want to join this work, you want to join the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and become active under the leadership of the party. And I also want to salute all our comrades who are on. It's been great that comrades Indigo and Dylan were out here from Ohio. They were here for a couple of weeks.
Shout out.
And we're gonna see them again soon. It was wonderful to have you, comrades, and miss you a lot already. So we're looking forward to seeing you when you come back this way. Everybody else is invited. Come on down to St. Louis.
See ya.
This is it.
See the center, see the Black Power
Yeah.
blueprint. Uhuru,
The
thank you.
forefront of the incredible work,
Yeah,
the African Liberation Movement.
absolutely. So Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny, thank you for that analysis, and salute to Chairman, as Chairman says, a time of great peril and promise. And I use that quote often when people are like, oh, there's so much horrible stuff going on in the world. It's the system.
Good but
panicking.
dangerous.
Yeah, it's a sign that we are winning, and
Yes.
let's do the work. Let's make the victory as quick and painless as possible. And
Yes, and forward to times of great peril and promise. Uhuru.
okay, so
Venceremos.
yes, so we do have some announcements that we need to get to. Let everybody know about all the other stuff going on. Okay, here we go. So get in the mix with Uhuru Foods and Pies at Tower Grove Pride in St. Louis, Missouri. That is this Saturday and Sunday, September 27th and 28th. We need volunteers. Volunteers are also needed for food prep on Friday, September 26th. So you can bake, grill, fry, and sell to support the Black Power Blueprint, building economic and political power to the African community. No experience is necessary. All volunteers get a free meal as part of your shift. Individuals, groups, and families 14 years old and up are welcome. You can email stl@uhurufoods.org to sign up. Again, that is stl@uhurufoods.org to sign up. So next slide. On Wednesday, October 8th at 6:30 p.m. Central, attend an upcoming event hosted by the Reparations Legacy Project titled Stand for Reparations, Not Gentrification. Stay tuned for more info on theburningspear.com/events and at reparationslegacy.org. Next slide. Save the date for Saturday, October 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Join an event hosted by the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. Oh, the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Latin America. Build the anti-colonial free speech movement. You can stay tuned for more info at handsoffuhuru.org. Mark your calendar for the next APSC study happening on Wednesday, October 8th at 6:30 p.m. Central. We'll be reading and discussing Izwe Letu e Africa, Chapter 7, that discusses how the party's theory led to the creation of the African People's Solidarity Committee. You can register for the study at apscuhuru.org/study. Next slide. Save the dates and make plans to be in Washington, D.C. on November 1st and 2nd for the Black People's March on the White House. Buses are being organized from St. Louis, Chicago, and elsewhere. Stay tuned for more information at blackisbackcoalition.org. Next slide. And of course, subscribe to get the Burning Spear news and analysis sent directly to your email inbox. You can visit theburningspear.substack.com. And next slide, and check out the One Africa Worldview podcast on youtube.com/@theburning, that is the @sign. So youtube.com/@the burning spear. So they are going live every Monday at a new time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. You can also catch up on past episodes as well. In addition to all of these incredible online resources, we are an organization of organizers. We are on the ground, doing outreach, talking with people face to face. So we call on all APSC and Uhuru Solidarity Movement members and supporters to read and distribute the best organizing tool that we have, the Burning Spear newspaper. Now is the time to order bundles of the September issue. You can go to theburningspear.store. And a reminder that you can find resources to support your spear distribution efforts at apscuhuru.org/spear toolkit. Next slide. Uhuru Planet Reparations Apparel is clothing, accessories, and more. It is forwarding the culture of white reparations to African people. It is an institution of Black Star Industries. Go to the online store at uhuruplanet.com to check out the newest design, Kick the Ass of the Ruling Class. Next slide. Join the White Solidarity with Black Power broadcast team. Be part of producing programs like these, as well as the Reparations in Action podcast and more. Bring your skills and we can train you. Help get this analysis to reach more people. So we are looking for engineers, promoters, video editing and post-production, graphic design, and much more. Whatever your talents, we can absolutely find a spot for you. So drop a line in the chat or email at volunteer@apscuhuru.org. So you can find details about these and so many more upcoming events at theburningspear.com/events. So, one last fundraising update. I want to, really encourage everyone to keep giving. I want to thank everybody who did donate. And if you are watching the recording later, you can still contribute. And please make sure to visit uhurusolidarity.org and apscuhuru.org to learn more about the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the African People's Solidarity Committee, and how you can become a member. Join this work to build white solidarity with Black power and unity through reparations. So I
think Becky donated.
Oh, excellent. Yes. That's fantastic news. Uhuru, Becky, $25. So we just got 110 to go. So shout out to Becky, incredible comrade. And we are wrapping up. So, if you're watching this recording, please go to, uhurusolidarity.org/ APSC. apscuhuru.org/donate to pay reparations today. So I want to, thank Chairwoman Penny so much for your presentation and for leading this work. And, I also want to thank everybody who contributed today, everyone who, left a comment, everybody that participated and joined in today's production. And I just want to say free Palestine and unity through reparations.
Uhuru! Vanguard up!
Relentless.